Hi, guys.
Howdy.
Howdy.
All right. So welcome, everybody, to 2026. And now we've gone from the Smarter Not Harder podcast to the Health Optimization Medicine podcast. More on that at some point in the future. But Jodi, 2026 means that the Rugby World Cup is not too far away. Are we going to find an excuse to come visit you?
Yes, please. Yeah, we are the, as you said before, safest place at the moment because we're furthest away from everything. So hopefully we just mind our own business over here for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Well, but also I want to come see New Zealand play Australia. And I believe the first match is held in Perth. So Jodi, we need to get on that and make sure that something happens.
The best place to be is the secret of the world that everyone thinks too far away. And so gotta come see it.
When you get there, you will need chronobiological re-entraining, meaning
wow. Check out that segue.
Yeah.
All right.
You're gonna flip time zones very quickly.
So welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Health Optimization Medicine podcast. Today we're going to be talking about chronobiological re-entrainment. We're very sticklers here for definitions. Does somebody want to define chronobiology?
Sure, I can define it.
Of course.
Chronobiological re-entraining is the deliberate resynchronization of the body's clocks, the brain clock and organ clocks, back to coherent day-night rhythm using time cues, mainly light, but also food timing, movement, temperature, and social schedule. Right?
All right.
That is a short definition of chronobiological re-entraining.
Coming from the guy who goes to Manila far too often is a perfect way to set off this definition. And so, look, chronobiology re-entrainment, we just talked about one called jet lag. Another one, well, let's look at just sort of how somebody might diagnose that they need to start training their own chronobiology. How do you guys look at this in terms of a clinical aspect? Jodi, I know you see a lot of patients all the time. In fact, your door might open soon with a patient behind you. But how do you assess somebody's chronobiology overall?
Oh, yeah, this is a juicy multi-layered one. Okay. So obviously
I like juicy multi-layered questions. What can I say?
So firstly, the most obvious ones is disrupted nighttime sleep. So I do have a lot of patients coming in and they have or present with insomnia. They either wake at 2 or 3 a.m. consistently. They are urinating in the middle of the night. They wake up in the morning tired. And then there's the lifestyle components or the living components. So they're inside a lot during the day. They love watching TV and working late at night. They have their phone on and they're right before bed and put it down just before they go to sleep. You just described
every entrepreneur in the right? So,
yes, yeah. I'm just like describing myself right now. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, so lack of sunlight outside. They're eating at ad hoc times. They're driving and eating. And so you can already see from that there's going to be a disruption to the light and the circadian biology. So what I also see is microbiome. And this is less likely to be a linked component, but generally microbiome and movement of bowels, so you don't have regularity, you don't have proper clearance. Or completion, as I call it. And it's also ad hoc throughout the day. It might be every second day, it might be daily. They're getting bloated after food. So how I explain it to my clients is that the poor body has got these regular clocks and rhythms that it's used to throughout the day. And what we do to it is surprise it at every moment we can. And it has to go and disrupt some of the other processes that it was already doing. And it was starting, it was just cleaning the closet for you. And it was really getting into the nitty gritty towels, throwing out the old ones, layering them in color, order. And you've just thrown some food down. So now it has to go straight into the stomach and start to work there. And so if you can have more prediction for the body, then it's going to be more efficient at its ability to predict and know and work efficiently with energy use and obviously have preparation like your acids, your enzymes. But what we do in this current world is keep it at a constant state of had to be prepared. And this is even the EMF piece and the fake light. It doesn't know where it is in time space. So it is confused, and no wonder we are dysregulated.
Yeah, actually, Jodi makes 3 important points here. The one could be summarized, the last thing that she said could be summarized is modern life is really called circadian pollution, right? So modern life that we have,
Great line.
we created a world with light at night, food at night, stress all day, and then we act surprised as if biology gets confused, right? That's terrible. The second thing that she's pointed out here is that the brain has a master clock, but the tissues all have their local clocks, right? So in health optimization medicine, what we would like to do is to make the entire orchestra play together, right? We don't want the brain desynchronized from the rest of the other tissues. Acupuncturists already know this, right? When they know that different organs work at different times of the day. And the third thing that Jodi actually point that she made here is that the body is not just chemistry; it's chemistry that's scheduled in time, right? So it's the chemistry that's occurring, and you're measuring the metabolites, and then for example, in the lack of sleep, you could see the inflammatory markers go up, or even the inflammatory cytokines go up, etc. But actually, that can be measured only when at a particular time, right? When the body is stressed out, it produces that. So we are a time-based biology. The circadian system is a conductor and an orchestra, and the modern life is a circadian pollution. I think those 3 things sum up what Jodi has just mentioned to us in short terms.
Dr. Bookatz, I want to pass things over to you to talk a little bit about additional diagnosis here or detection. There's a lot to be said for wearables, also for some of the kind of non-costly tests that are available online. Do you have any favorites that you like to use with your clients?
The one that stands out is probably going to be the Oura Ring. That one seems to be a favorite amongst myself and colleagues as well as clients.
Yeah, explain later how Oura Ring gives you orthosomnic stress.
Ortho-Somnia, right?
Yeah, orthosomnic anxiety.
I think I called it orthorexia.
Or anxiety is eating right? And this orthosomnic anxiety is sleeping right. It's like and because of your Oura Ring, you get so anxious about not sleeping right. Go ahead.
You wake up early to check to make sure that you had enough sleep. Yeah, it doesn't really fit that well. This is a fascinating topic, and Jodi covered most of the initial thoughts that came to mind. But given that I've spent the last 15 years in the ER as a shift worker, one of the things that you learn very quickly is that it's not about how much time you sleep, and you learn that the fatigue that you experience and the lifestyle things that follow many days after becoming out of sync with what your natural rhythm should look like, and being out of sync with your biology. That's where the real effects, I think, of the this re-entraining is really about. And so what we find is that you don't necessarily need to do what I did, which was work under the bright lights in the ER for 12 hours straight, being, telling ourselves to be awake when melatonin is supposed to rise, putting food in our system, and when we're supposed to be sleeping and letting our gut rest. So besides all the disruption with hormones and metabolism and recovery, we're actually doing the same thing by just looking at our phone at night. You're doing the same thing as I am when if you're looking on social media and you're anticipating what's next on Instagram and you're doing your doom scrolling and you think, I'm just going to do this for maybe 15, 20 minutes right before I go to bed. You're signaling to your brain the same thing that I'm experiencing in the ER when I'm anticipating a really sick trauma that's about to come in. Your brain, your system doesn't know any different. And so the goal here really is about using light and darkness both as medicine, and thinking of those as really signals that we're giving the body at very specific intervals that helps either promote and anchor things like wakefulness and getting the day started, allowing our cortisol to rise and pulse, along its natural cadence through the day, or the darkness, which is cueing our body to sleep, to recover, to restore, and to do all those things that we care about, clean up our damaged DNA, get rid of the cell waste that's built up over the day. Being awake is like having your car engine running all day. So the fuel, the exhaust builds, and we need a way to get rid of it. So
I would just add there, because Dr. Bookatz, you touched a bit on Zeitgebers and just different ways of anchoring the body in through light and darkness predominantly. But I would just add, in terms of a diagnostic tool that I hear come up time and time again, and for somebody who doesn't want to spend I don't know what the Oura Ring costs now, $350 or something, maybe 400. If somebody doesn't want to spend that, just looking at something as simple as like a Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index. But part of what Dr. Ted touched on earlier, and actually, Alan, you just touched on this too, areas that completely disrupt circadian rhythms. So jet lag, shift work, social jet lag, or going out and partying on the weekends and wondering why you can't sleep on Sunday night. Those are all circadian disruptors. We've done a little bit on diagnosing and sort of detecting. What about corrections? How do we deal with something like a jet lag? And perhaps I'm going to bump that spike over to the master of jet lag to go through this.
Before I talk about jet lag, there's something here that actually Alan touched on also that has to be surfaced in this discussion, right? That the body actually has a day program and a night program. So the day program is about performance, alertness, fueling, glucose handling. Those are all part of the day program. The night program is actually repair, cleanup, immune calibration, hormone choreography, etc. So you have your two different parts of the program that have to be balanced by the body. So if you bring the day signals into the night, like bright light, big meals, intense stimulation, then you steal from repair. And then you wonder why, you get sick so quickly, or, why you never recover from whatever it is that ails you. Right. So I think that's an important thing that I surfaced. So in terms of anything, not just jet lag, there's actually the three levers. You could think of, in health optimization, you could think of time or timing, the when question, not the what question. You think of the when as your lever, right? And it becomes a lever this way that you can actually apply to different parts of your body that gets desynchronized from jet lag, shift work, and other things that actually desynchronize your sleep, right? So your chronobiology, rather. So light is the strongest cue, right? The strongest time cue. The morning bright light anchors the clock, and the evening dim light protects the melatonin in the night program. So that's the first lever that you can use. The second one, which we don't actually think of it as a timer, is actually food timing, right? The liver clock hears food louder than words, right? So meals are time signals to metabolism. Late eating is a metabolic time zone shift. So what I do in my jet lag, for example, is I have a meal anchoring technique. So if the time difference between here and Washington, D.C. and Manila is 12 hours and I eat dinner at 7:30 p.m. here, then I make sure that I eat breakfast there at 7:30 a.m. So I have a meal anchor, right? And essentially, that's what I use to be able to synchronize myself more quickly to the new time zone, right? And then the third lever that you could use, is aside from light food timing, is movement, right? So morning or midday movement supports entrainment, right? But intense late night training can be a day signal too close to bedtime, right? Everyone wonder why when you work out too close to bedtime, then you can't sleep, right? Well, duh. So light sets the brain clock, food sets the body clocks. And that's how I like to think of it. And in terms of the anchoring of the sleep time, right? One of the things that I do is what I call develop a sleep anchoring technique, right? Is to anchor the time that you sleep to a particular time, right? You select it, you train yourself with it, even you just staying in bed for like an hour awake. In 2 weeks, you will entrain yourself to actually sleep at a time. because then we will not skimp on sleep. And that's usually our problem. It's like, oh no, I'll finish it until tonight. I'll just do, I'll do an overnighter, and then you totally skip your sleep. But if you put it as the first thing in your schedule, like, yes, this is my first activity of the day, then you'll never skimp on it. And when you wake up in the morning, after you drink your 1 or 2 glasses of water to hydrate yourself, go sun yourself, get a sun lamp or whatever to start entraining yourself, and time your meals such that you get entrained very quickly. These are very simple levers to use in any desynchronized situation, right? Light, meal timing, and activity. So that's
they cost nothing.
It costs nothing, guys. And of course, if you want the Rolls Royce of things, then you include then the hormones. Like, for example, for me, when it's daytime here in the United States and I go to the Philippines, right, for home practice, what happens is that in the morning, in morning there, it's nighttime for me, right? So I have to push in my thyroid and cortisol hormones in the morning because that's what's expected in the morning, right? Until my body actually starts producing it on its own as it adjusts to the new time zone, right? So these are just the kinds of things that you have to think about, right? When you're looking like, no, thyroid is, the burst of thyroid and cortisol is actually done in the morning. The burst of your estrogen and testosterone are actually done in the morning, right? Your growth hormone pulses, are done at night when you sleep, right? The pulse for you to release growth hormone is actually within the first hour sleep at night. So then to be able to augment those, right? With the right hormones or with the right stimulating or releasing substances in there that could help in the hormonal cascade. And that's actually, I consider that the Rolls Royce because it's really very difficult to deal with the endocrine system, right? As I said, it's like grandma. It's an older system. It's based on the bloodstream and the signaling agents are actually dispersed, not in an electrical system, electrochemical system like the nervous system. It's in the blood, right? So, or in wet tissue, right? Yeah. So it's like grandma. It's an analog communication system. It goes in cycles. And we know that's true for sleep, right? Sleep is a cycle as well. And you don't tell grandma, no, do this now. No, you coax grandma. Grandma, please, can you do this, right? It's a more ancient or older system of communication, and you better be nice to it, right? What we're talking about is that light is not just illumination for us, it's information, right? Light is not just illumination, it's information. It informs your body. So, guys, start thinking of light as a drug, right? Because as a drug, the timing of the light is your dosage. So, and you're talking about wearables here, the Oura Ring, etc. Hey, the sun is the original wearable, guys. It shows what's on your skin, right? And people said, oh, Dr. Ted was the best sleep supplement that I can take, especially I'm jet lagged and so on. Actually, the best sleep supplement is really sunset. So, these are very simple things to remember because we're yoked to the sun. We're yoked to the activity of the sun. That's how our genes are actually made, right? So in the lever of eating, right? It's like you should remember that what you eat is not a preference; it's a circadian signal. So now that you know that's a lever that you can pull, why not use it as a circadian signal, right? And then when you eat out of schedule, like you eat late at night, right? You're so tempted, you're so hungry. Ooh. Like Dr. Bookatz just did a 24-hour, duty in the ER, right? And he wants to eat something sweet, like just before midnight. It's like late night eating is a metabolic jet lag. You're basically inducing a metabolic jet lag if you do that. So if chronobiology is the operating system of your body, your hormones are the app. So when you're looking at this and you're looking at the hormones, et cetera, well, hey, they have to run at a particular time. It's very simple, right? You have to address, in health optimization medicine, we address not only the what of things, but the when of things. Because the when of things will increase the effectiveness, will put the body back into synchrony, right? Because the body is a network, right? It is a network, and a network works in actual synchronized way, or what they call in more mature parlance, it's called network coherence, right? The body actually works coherently, right? So that's where I'm coming from here in terms of how you deal with jet lag and how you deal with other modes of the synchrony. right? Just use those three levers available to you. Your light, your meals, your food, and then your activity. And then if you have someone to guide you, then do hormone balancing according to your new time schedule. And that's it. Right? The first three are free.
All right, so I'm going to interject here a selfish plug before we wrap things up. In the virtual health symposium, which we have coming up, guys, April 22nd, 23rd, it's free. Go and check it out at homehope.org. You can sign up there. But we do have a couple of episodes that, of course, talk about sleep, as well as something that Dr. Ted just alluded to, which is time-restricted feeding. So, one of the themes that I heard today was anchors, and whether it's a meal anchor when you're traveling or sleep anchoring technique, plenty of anchors that help anchor your chronobiology. Any sort of final words of wisdom?
Yes. First, we'd like to bust three myths here that chronobiology is not just about sleep, right? No, sleep is just the visible tip. It's just the tip of the iceberg, right? The clocks that run metabolism, hormones, immunity, and repair are clocks that are in your tissues, right? So, and then, I'll catch up on weekends, right? So if you shift your schedule for 2 hours every weekend, you're basically flying cross country twice a week, right? So that's like for those
Even
of you
in Australia.
who like, especially for those of you who like, hey, it's Friday night, and then there's also a myth that night owls can't change anything. No, chronotype is only a setting of tendencies, right? For you, the light and timing, they still move the needle more dramatically. So to close this out, in Home Hope, we say, just because you're not sick doesn't mean you're healthy. And one of the fastest way to move from not sick to thriving is to restore biological timing, because rhythm is a form of resilience.
And a form of dance. All right.
Yeah.
Let's wrap things up. As I just recanted, the Health Optimization Medicine Practice Symposium, we're actually having a virtual one this year, April 22nd, 23rd. Go and check that out at homehope.org. You can get a free ticket. We'll also probably link to this in the notes below. If you are watching this on YouTube, please click like, subscribe, leave a comment. We want to hear all about rhythms, your favorite biological rhythm, maybe a rhythm that you like to dance to. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave a 5-star review and a comment, and we hope to hear more from you soon. Let's sign off now from the Health Optimization Medicine Podcast. Thank you, Jodi, Dr. Bookatz, Dr. Achacoso. It's been an absolute pleasure. Peace, love.
Bye, guys.
Bye.